Hey, what's up guys? It's Technical Tim here, and I want to thank you all so much for liking all my videos and subscribing to the channel, and I'd appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give me 1 minute. But I'm here for part 2 of my final thoughts video, and I'm doing the second half of the card, so I'll start from the bottom again and work up my way up to the main event. And so last video we covered the Chookagian-Calderwood fight, the Popov-Wineland fight, the Stewart-Lewis fight, the Jan Hill fight, the Carolina Grasso fight, the Munoz-Sterling fight, and the Tuivasa-Ivanov fight. And so now we're to Jimmy Rivera and Peter Yan. And I think Jimmy Rivera is kind of KO first half of the fight or bust in this fight. Jimmy Rivera's a skilled fighter, he's a good fighter, but Peter Yan's just cage cutting ability and pressure and his boxing, I think he's going to just eventually kind of like pour it on Rivera, and I think he'll probably finish Rivera, to be completely honest. And the thing about Rivera that maybe some people are kind of forgetting is that he actually slows down, and the last time, like, his last couple fights, Moraes ended quickly. The Dotson fight was super low volume. I mean, it's a Dotson fight, so you can expect that. So he wasn't really forced to work. And then against Sterling, it was kind of like, there wasn't really like a heavy pace. It was more of like a game plan implemented by Sterling. And you have to go back to the, which fight? Oh, the Thomas Almeida fight. That's whenever like a pace was kind of set, and he slowed down in the later half of that fight. And Peter Yan's pace is going to be way more than that. So I think, and the volume numbers are kind of crazy. Like Yan throws 6.5 strikes per minute, and he just keeps up an insane pace. So I think Rivera has to get finished because I don't think he's going to win the later rounds, like round 2 and 3. I think he's going to drop them. So I think it's kind of like first half of the fight, finish or bust. But Rivera has like some heavy hands, and we've seen Yan hittable, and it's not because he has bad boxing defense. It's more so because he's just super aggressive and always looking to land his own punches. So it kind of opens him up sometimes. But I have, at the same time, I wouldn't play Yan straight just because... Remember, like, I'm glad I said the same thing about Gustafsson last week because I thought Gustafsson was going to dominate that fight, but this one's a little different. Like, I'm much more like, I feel like Yan's a much more comfortable minus 300 or so favorite than Gus, but I wouldn't play him straight. But I think I have him in a parlay or something, but that's it. But I think Yan should win that fight. Next fight, Jessica Ai and Valentina Shevchenko. I think Valentina's going to win this fight. I think she's the rightful favorite. I do think that line's a little off, though. I think Jessica Ai is a much better boxer, and she's a scrappy grappler that can get top position. So I could see her being competitive at times in this fight. I wouldn't be all that shocked. But I'm not playing her, obviously. But what I am playing is I have fight starts round 3, and I'm on a few of the overs. I think this fight goes pretty far. Ai's ground game is pretty legit, and I'm not saying like it's like a crazy high level, but I'm saying it's really scrappy with good fundamentals. She fights hands well. She's got some decent takedown defense. She just doesn't really make all that many mistakes down there. Go watch that Jessica Ai Juliana Pena fight, and Jessica dropped she dropped the rounds 2-1. She got a point taken away in that fight by an illegal knee, but she was scrappy as fuck in that fight. And you got to remember, Shevchenko ended up submitting Pena with an armbar, but she was losing the grappling for most of that fight. So I could see Ai like having a little bit of success in this fight. I still think Valentina, like her counterpunching and just her overall well-roundedness, like she should win. But she is a little low volume at times, and Jessica is scrappy. I could see Ai maybe taking a round or something. But I think the plays are the overs, and the reason I say that is because I don't think Shevchenko is going to get finished here. And Ai's really durable, and Shevchenko isn't as ruthless a puncher as people think. Like, she's not that much of a finisher. She's an overrated finisher. She can finish people, but I don't think she is as big of a finisher as people think. And, like, she finished Cachoeira on the ground, but Cachoeira has literally no ground game. She just, like, got on top of her and just, like, out-skilled her because she's way better. And then she kind of just flash armbarred Juliana Pinion. I think that's going to be the finish route for her. It's just kind of a random submission, but I like Ai's just scrappiness down there. Like, she defends submissions well. She's always doing the right things. Like, you can tell she's well schooled and has a good jiu-jitsu coach, and she's been on the mat quite a bit. You can tell she's like learned that scrappiness over the years. And I think I will survive for a while. Like, I could see a sub happening, but I think it's more likely than not that this goes to the cards. I think this is going to go to the cards, but I just played some of the overs, so that's kind of my plays there. I got fight starts round 3 at -230, which is kind of crazy. Like, I think this fight goes to round 3 over 80% of the time. Like, I think it should be well over -400. So I thought that was a crazy line. And I'll be looking at some more overs, but I think the overs are kind of the play in that fight. Cater Lamas is the next one, and I'm on Cater here. I'm not on him as much as Moraes and Zhao Nanyan. I'll talk about Moraes later. I'm on Moraes too. But I think people are kind of are kind of like being a little too optimistic about the striking success that Lamas could maybe have on the feet. I don't think he's going to have much success on the feet. I know Moicano exploited the leg kick strategy against Cater, and Lamas can throw some leg kicks every now and then, but I don't think he throws enough volume to consistently cause enough damage to that leg and to kind of just like keep doing it. And he doesn't move laterally all that well, and that's what Moicano is doing. You got to use that leg kick and get out of there and kind of keep the distance, and I don't think Lamas does that well either. And I also think Lamas just doesn't have as much power in his leg kicks. I don't think he could just leg kick his way to victory on the feet. And he's susceptible to straight punches. The last time we saw a decent, good straight puncher against him was Holloway. And I know people love Holloway, but I think Cater's straight punching is actually probably better than Holloway's. And if not, like, definitely in that league. Like, Cater's a great straight puncher, and he probably has the best jab in the sport. And I think he's just going to kind of eat Lamas up. I don't think Lamas is going to get those leg kicks going. And the question is, can Lamas get the grappling going? There's a little bit of unknowns here because we haven't seen Cater really tested against a good wrestler in a while. I've liked what I've seen from his first layer takedown defense. Andre Fili actually has an underrated double leg, and Cater shrugged those off fine. And I've also seen him kind of against Fishgold shrug him off fine. And if you play the first layer takedown defense game and get out of there versus Lamas, it can work. It can work. Like Holloway did it. Holloway doesn't... He just kind of did first layer takedown defense and threatened with a guillotine every now and then. And Lamas isn't like... He's a good offensive wrestler, but he's not the best. And I think he can get a couple takedowns here, but I don't think he can do it all that consistently. And sometimes Lamas will shoot like a bad shot if you start landing a lot of straight punches on him and kind of discourage him. He'll take a shot from too far away. If you're the straight puncher, he'll shoot from too far away, and it will set up an easy sprawl for his opponent. And where I think Lamas is amazing at as a grappler and where he can get success is in scrambles, and you can cause scrambles whenever you're both kind of like tied up a little bit. And where Lamas can do that is if Cater settles up against the cage, and we've seen Cater do it one time, and it's the only reason why I'm like a little doubtful of Cater's chances, but I still think Cater's to play. Is he settled up against the cage against Fishgold for a little bit, and if he does that, that can allow Lamas to maybe start like chaining some takedowns together and kind of just pull him into like a little bit of a grappling world. And that's where scrambles could happen. Because, I mean, Ricardo Lamas is an amazing scrambler. He out-scrambled Elkins, and I think highly of Elkins' scrambling game. So that's where I think Lamas could have success. And I did see, but I mostly like, Cater has a wrestling background, and I mostly like what I see from his game. Like, I can tell he's schooled in the wrestling world. I doubt he's a better scrambler than Cater, and if this fight does end up on the floor for like a while, I think Lamas could maybe drown him. But I tend to think Cater, I like what I've seen from his disengage game, meaning just stop that first shot and get out of there. And I think he's going to do that, and I think he's just going to pick up a couple clear rounds and win this fight. And the straight punching is going to cause Lamas some issues in this fight. So I think Cater is also worth a moderate play. And God, I have a lot to say about these next 3 fights. It might take a while. Next fight, Ansaroff Suarez. Take it easy on me on the comments, but I think Ansaroff has a better chance than people think in this fight. Do I think Suarez is going to win? Yeah. But Ansaroff, honestly, I'm not just saying this to get like attention or anything. I think she's probably one of the harder matchups for Suarez in this entire division. Not saying there's someone out there, like, you know, there's other opponents I could probably give a little bit better of a fight, but Ansaroff's definitely a top 3 tough matchup for Suarez in this division, and it's because a lot of Suarez's takedown games, like, she could do more. She has a lot of takedown variety, and I think that will ultimately be the downfall of Ansaroff here. But a lot of her game is pushing you up against the cage. And if you watch Ansaroff, she is consciously focused on whenever you shoot on her, so if you're like in the middle of the cage, or in the middle of the octagon, and the cage is kind of back there, and the opponent's trying to push you up. Galdelia and Marcos tried doing it to her a lot. She's already turning on the sprawl, so she can't get pushed up against the cage. Like, she's turning in the middle of the octagon because she knows she can't be put up against the cage, and I was noticing that in the fights. And then even in the corner, her corner at like going into round 3 against Galdelia said you can't be pushed up against the cage. Like, they had mentioned it. So obviously it's something she drills a lot, because I kept noticing it in fights, and then I don't even listen to all that much corner advice usually. Like, I usually don't even pay attention to that stuff. And the corner mentioned that. So obviously she drills it in the room a lot. And I like what I've seen from her takedown defense as well. But also, I want to say the sharps that I know that are legitimate sharps in Vegas are all on Nina. Just so you guys know. So, like, watch out if you have Suarez and some parlays or something. They're all on Nina. And but a thing I think they're overlooking, and I think they're not realizing, is, and I think this will kind of be the reason why Suarez eventually gets those takedowns, is she shoots off to a sweep single leg and then dumps to the right. Watch countless of her fights. That's what she does. She grabs a single and dumps to the right. And so whenever you're playing that sprawl game that Nina likes to play, and then circle off to her left or right in the middle of the octagon so she doesn't get her back up against the cage, you can't do that if someone has a single leg up in the air. And the reason is because the reason you can circle off is if someone shoots a double leg and they don't get their hands locked, your legs are free, so you can kind of you can use them to circle off. If your single leg is up in the air, you can't do that anymore. You can't circle off, and you're vulnerable to getting taken down. And I think the sharps are not realizing this type of takedown that Suarez has. She's going to shoot that, and it takes away the mobility of Ansaroff to circle off. I think that's what's going to happen. I do think Ansaroff is going to stop some takedowns here, and she's going to circle away from the cage. And I think she's going to have more success than people think. But I think ultimately, Tatiana is a super smart wrestler, and I think she's going to realize that. And I bet she's already made the read, because I've listened to her talk, and she really knows like the grappling game, and I bet they notice that. I guarantee you they see that tendency of Ansaroff circling away really fast. And like, Ansaroff has a legitimate takedown defense. But I think that's going to be the takedown that kind of ends Ansaroff, and then Suarez will get enough top time and she'll cruise to a decision. Having said all that, it's funny because like I'm telling you, all the sharps are on Ansaroff as an underdog here. And But I don't think they see that on tape, and I think that's going to be why Suarez ends up getting her down a little easier than they think. But I think Ansaroff will also have more success than a lot of people are giving her, than the chances that they're giving her. But I think the play here is the over 1.5. I think Ansaroff's going to survive for a while. I think this actually might go all the way to the cards, and I think Ansaroff, she is generally, like, I've seen her give up a position every now and then, but Suarez isn't like some crazy good black belt on the floor. Like, she's good at opportunistically finding like Darce chokes and things like that. But I think Ansaroff has good jiu-jitsu fundamentals. She kicks off the top of the quads well to get back to her feet. And I think she's just going to work her way back to the feet occasionally, and it'll kind of be like Suarez just attempting to keep Matt returning her and eventually kind of being in Ansaroff's guard. And Ansaroff's skilled down there, and she's tough and durable, and I think she's going to survive for a while. And I think that line should be 2.5 rounds. I don't think it should be 1.5, so that's the play that I made, and I'm confident in that play. But, yeah, I know people in the comments are all going to say Suarez is easy money. I do agree she wins, but I don't think... And I think Suarez takes down pretty much everyone in the division, but I do think like she's going to struggle a little bit with some takedowns for a bit here. Like, Ansaroff isn't going to just go away right away. I don't think it's going to be a pushover, but I think the Sharps are not realizing that sweep single leg because I don't think they know what it is. Cerrone and Ferguson. All right, like, Tony Ferguson's my favorite fighter, just so you guys know, but you kind of have to be objective here. And I know this is a very divisive fight because people love both guys and people love Ferguson. I think Cerrone's going to win. And I got him. I think the line is kind of getting to the point where it's kind of like it's almost pushing to even money now. Like right now I'm seeing Ferguson minus 130. Cerrone plus 110, something around there. I got Cerrone at plus 130. Just one unit. I don't think this play though is for Cerrone is like a lock at all. But whenever I was kind of going through Ferguson's fights and taping him, I was noticing him getting outstruck a lot at times. And then the reason he would win is because of the pace that he set and not because of like actual striking skill. Even though he's good, he's still a good striker. But the 4 times he fought actual strikers was against RDA. RDA is a striker, and RDA was having a lot of success in that first round, and the reason why he ended up winning there, Ferguson, is because he set a pace. He outpaced him, and the pace is what kind of gave him the win. Same thing against Anthony Pettis. He beat Anthony Pettis a lot more comfortably in that first round, but Pettis is like way more susceptible to kind of like gassing out than Cerrone. And he kind of like beat Pettis, and he still was caught in that fight, Ferguson, but he kind of beat Pettis because he just outpaced him a little bit. Edson Barboza was kind of another thing. And then Lando Venata was really the only other striker that he's gone against, and he was that's a fight where I saw openings. Like, I actually saw openings for Donald to land. And Cerrone kind of beat him because of the pace too. Like, he was getting outstruck in a lot of different ways, and then he kind of just beat him to the pace. And Donald Cerrone's cardio is very fucking good. I don't think he's just going to wilt due to pressure. And I know everyone says Cerrone can't handle pressure, and that's whenever he usually breaks. I think that's kind of overstated a lot because it's happened. But Cerrone fights so much. He has like 30-something fights in the UFC, and the only times those have really happened, it's happened a few times, like just a few times against power punchers. Like, Darren Till is a legit power puncher, so it happened there. Tony Ferguson has a little bit of pop, but he doesn't hit like Darren Till, or Jorge Masvidal hits harder than Tony Ferguson, in my opinion. And that's kind of when whenever he wilted, whenever you're kind of more of a power puncher, and Ferguson really isn't that, and more of a straight puncher, and Ferguson's not really like much of a straight puncher either. So I think Cerrone like Ferguson's probably going to try to pressure him right away, but I don't think Cerrone's just going to go away. And I don't think Ferguson has the power just to knock Cerrone's head off right away either. And I think Cerrone's going to be there for the fight. And then, so that's kind of like the common sense observation I made is all his striking fights that Ferguson is winning is because people are kind of getting outpaced. And I think Cerrone's cardio is fucking amazing too. In a 3-rounder, I don't think he's going to gas. Like, I've never seen Donald Cerrone gas in a fight. And I think he's going to be right there. And then so that's kind of like the common sense observation I made is I don't think Cerrone's just going to wilt due to cardio. And then I think the openings are there for Cerrone to land. And I've seen a lot of them on tape. Ferguson keeps his head right up in the air. And on exits, he'll turn. And he did this against Venata. He'll turn, and I think that will open up a head kick for Cerrone. And I just see a ton of opportunities. And I just think Cerrone can land clean here. And I'm not saying like it's a lock here. Ferguson's really skilled, but I think the grappling will mostly cancel out. Cerrone's tough to kind of take down. And I think this is mostly going to be on the feet. And I think Cerrone's a more skilled kickboxer. And I find it really hard if this fight plays out for Cerrone to not land something big at some point. So I'm 1 unit on Cerrone. I'm not as big as I am on Jan, Cater, and Moraes here. But I think this is I would pick, I love Tony. I would pick Tony over Khabib. I've said that for years, that Tony would murk Khabib, in my opinion. But I don't think this is a good matchup for him, and I think he's going to run into some issues. And I don't think Cerrone's just going to wilt due to pressure and cardio. Because I just feel like Ferguson is a pressure fighter, and he makes you gas. Where the pressure fighters that put away Cerrone were like power punchers. Like they didn't like make him gas due to cardio. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I know people in the comments are going to disagree, like at least half of you, but I also don't think it's a lock. But I just see a tough little matchup for Ferguson. I think he's going to get hit clean in this fight. But he's still good. He can land some big shots too and hurt Cerrone, but that's my opinion on it. The next fight and the main event is Marlon Moraes and Cejudo, and I'm all on Moraes here. He's my biggest play of the night. And I think I would play him. I circled this on the calendar a long time ago as a potential max bet. But the reason why I'm not max betting is because there are some unknowns about Marlon Moraes' wrestling. And I went back in previous fights, and I've generally liked what I've seen. It's just it hasn't been tested a lot, which is really annoying because the guy has like actual 5-round fights. We've just never really seen a lot of his wrestling. And that's just kind of like statistically annoying that we haven't seen it. Because on the feet, he's going to batter Cejudo with kicks, and he's going to land some hooks. And Cejudo, I think Cejudo's being a little overrated right now. Like I like Cejudo, and I think he's a good fighter, but I think this is a much different matchup. And Moraes has some legitimate power in his kicks, and Cejudo doesn't really check leg kicks, and I don't think he really knows how. He just doesn't come back from like a Thai style, like he comes from a wrestling style, and I think he's going to get battered with leg kicks here. And I think Moraes is just as fast as Cejudo, and like Cejudo, his win condition is grappling and winning rounds that way, or just kind of landing something big early, which I think his power is being a little overrated right now. I think he just kind of knocked out TJ, and it is what it is. Like we don't see him doing that all that often. And Moraes has been touched. Like I've seen him staggered before in like World Series of Fighting and everything, but I think generally like Moraes isn't. I don't think he's gonna get like just knocked out. And I think he's going to batter Cejudo with leg kicks and probably lead to a stoppage. And then the grappling path. One, Cejudo's top control. He comes from a freestyle background. Like he wrestled folk style growing up, but he won the Olympics in freestyle. at a young age. He was the youngest U.S. Olympian. I'm sure most of you know that because Cejudo says it every fucking interview that he's in. But freestyle doesn't emphasize holding people down, and I don't think Cejudo's top control is like on par with a lot of other wrestlers, even though he's like an Olympic champ. I don't think it's on par with like a Gillespie or anything like that. And Moraes seems well-rounded enough to where I don't think he'll just be held down for like 3 or 4 rounds. I just don't see it. And some of the grappling tendencies that I've seen from Moraes that lead me to think and make an assumption that he won't get out wrestled badly is, one, he goes for leg lock sweeps, and they're not leg locks that kind of like make other people become the high man. He'll start leg locking and working up. And so I could see him scrambling up that way because I don't think Cejudo's all that skilled in, he's probably not all that skilled in jiu-jitsu, so I think it creates some space to allow Moraes to get up. But also, I've liked what I've seen for some of the sprawls that I've seen on Moraes. And then another thing, when Moraes gets kicks caught, he tends to have pretty good balance. Like really high athletic balance of staying up on his feet. And so I've just kind of seen a lot of things like that, little just like wrinkles in his game that make me think he'll be really tough to hold down. Doesn't hurt that he trains with really high-level wrestlers too. Doesn't mean you're a good wrestler. I mean, you can train with high-level wrestlers and suck, but I like that at least he knows what it's like that high-level wrestling. But we haven't seen it enough, so I don't know, but I've seen his offensive wrestling too. That looked pretty good. And usually if you have decent offensive wrestling, you're probably somewhat competent in defensive wrestling too. And I also just think, even if he gets taken down for like a round or two, every round starting standing, and he's just going to batter Cejudo with kicks. I'm really confident in that. And I think Moraes is going to knock Cejudo out, and that's probably my most confident play of the night. So just to kind of recap of the whole card, my plays are a small play on Bevan Lewis, a decent play on Zhao Nan, a small play on Ivanov at plus 150 odds, and then I have like Peter Yan and like a parlay or two, nothing big. I like the overs on Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Ai. I think that fight's going to play out because Ai's schooled in grappling, so I don't think she's just going to get subbed right away, and I think Valentina isn't just going to knock her head off with a punch. I like Cater moneyline. I like the over 1.5 in Nina and Tatiana. I like small on Donald Cerrone. And I like Moraes. So I like Moraes big. So I feel like Moraes, Cater, and kind of Jan, if like 2 of those fighters win, we'll probably have a good night. If 3 of them win, we'll have a really good night, because that's kind of where most of my action is on. Then I have some other plays sprinkled throughout the card. So good luck to everyone. This is a lot of plays for me. Like if you follow me, you know I'm kind of a conservative player, and I kind of build my unit size by not giving away units. But I think this is a great card for betting, and I think we're going to do well. So comment below, like this video if you haven't already, and thanks so much for listening, guys. And I'll send out a recap video Saturday, which is tomorrow. After the event, I might go. I live in Chicago, so I might go. But also, if you follow me on Twitter, because sometimes like there's been a lot of line movement, and sometimes I'll tweet out some other plays I have, or just buy my picks. It's $8 for the entire event, and so you can kind of see all my unit allocation on there, and if I add any other picks. So thanks so much, guys. Bye.